Have one of those moments where you realize you're not just in over your head, you're about 2 inches from drowning, and the only thing keeping you upright is sheer stubbornness. Yeah, that was me with wet sand scraping my face, courtesy of Derek's not-so-gentle hospitality, his knee digging into my back so hard I could barely suck in air. Zip ties biting my wrists. Travis screaming into his radio like he just busted a terrorist cell. We got him and the whole Lake Ranch crowd circling, snapping photos like they were about to see me get hauled off to federal prison. It's funny, right? You spend months undercover in Jacksonville chasing down gun runners who treat life like a video game, and all you want is a day off. Just one. I'd driven out here to this so-called safe-gated community thinking the biggest drama I'd see was a neighbor griping about their mailbox. But as I stared at the lake water flat as glass sunlight dripping gold across everything, life decided, nope, time to turn the dial to chaos. So there I was, pinned on the shore, crowd buzzing, and Derek and Travis decked out in these budget Navy uniforms with HOA security patches so shiny you'd think they were going to a Halloween party, not making an arrest. They barked out rights and warnings, getting half of it wrong, but the crowd ate it up. Well, most of them did. I spotted a woman in a blue sundress, phone raised, but her eyes said she wasn't buying the show. She kept zooming in on their badges, then on their faces, like she was the only one doing the math. You ever try to reason with people who've already decided you're guilty? It's like trying to teach a goldfish algebra. "Sir, this is public access," I said, keeping my voice calm. Travis cut me off with a nervous, high-pitched, "Shut up. We've been tracking you for days, breaking in casing houses." Flat-out lies. But someone in the crowd muttered, "Thank God they caught him. Mob justice, just add water." The radio at Derek's hip crackled a woman's voice, cold, crisp boss energy. "Status report. Is the subject secured?" Derek puffed up. "Affirmative. Caught him red-handed. Had fishing gear as cover just like the other incidents. Now I've been accused of a lot, but this was creative. Check his identification. Full background search," the voice snapped. Travis rummaged through my wallet, waving my license around. Miami address. No local connections. Outsider. The word spread like a bad smell. The woman in the sundress edged closer, her phone still up. They loaded me into a golf cart with lights and a welded cage, shoving me in like a trophy deer. The jacket shifted during the scuffle, a glint of gold at my chest pocket. None of them noticed. But that badge was my ace in the hole, and they were about to learn what happens when you grab a federal marshal and try to run your own kangaroo court. As we rattled through Lake Ranch, Derek looked back and sneered, "Time for your education, tough guy." I just looked at him, voice flat. "Someone here is about to get a real lesson, Derek. They thought they were dragging their catch to justice. Truth was, they'd just thrown the door wide open and invited me to see the whole rotten show. You want to know what a fake justice system looks like? Imagine a maintenance shed, tarted up with antennas, tinted windows, and a giant sign screaming, 'Authorized personnel only.' Inside it was all computers, radios, file cabinets, and enough monitors to make Fort Knox blush. They pointed me at a chair bolted to the floor, subtle right, hands flat on the table just like in the movies. While Derek and Travis whispered about how I moved like a pro, the radio blared again. "Bring him to the interview room. I want to speak with our guest personally." We walked down a corridor lined with doors marked "Evidence Financial Records," like these guys invented bureaucracy. I realized right then they weren't just playing security. They'd built a shadow government inside Lake Ranch with its own rules courts and apparently a boss lady. The interview room was more boardroom than jail, big table, leather chairs, a giant screen. Derek and Travis looked jumpy, but you could feel the real power waiting. The monitor flickered to life, a black screen, just a woman's voice, smooth as silk but sharp as a knife. "Good afternoon, Marshall Blackwood." That stopped me cold. She knew my name, my title, the whole Jacksonville op I'd just wrapped up. Information no HOA queenpin should have. I tried to play dumb, but she recited my resume back at me down to the classified parts. I gave her half the truth, said I was running from internal affairs, accused of skimming evidence money. She bit, wanted to know how much. I spun a tale about stashing cash in Jacksonville, needing to contact an associate. Derek and Travis perked up, greedy for the payout. "Search him thoroughly," she commanded. I handed over my decoy phone wallet. Keys, kept my real badge and comm device hidden right where a professional wouldn't find it unless they were actually looking. "Clarissa." Her name slipped out over the radio was buying the act. They took me to a holding room, not quite a cell, but secure enough. As soon as the door clicked, I triggered my beacon location status backup requested. The waiting game began. Morning came. Derek brought in coffee, real stuff, not gas station swill, and grinned. "Turns out you're exactly who you say you are." Travis piped up, "Not the first Fed we've had here. 15 agents in 2 months, DEA, ATF, even Secret Service. All learned to respect Lake Ranch Authority. You catching this, friend?" They were targeting law enforcement for extortion, fabricating charges, blackmailing agents' families, erasing records for a price. Derek handed me a tablet with my case file all forged except they'd edited out the part where he'd attacked me and left only my resistance. Slick, but I've seen better. Clarissa called from the intercom, "Bring him to the operations center." We walked past offices labeled Financial Processing Documentation Services. The scale of this thing, millions in transactions, facial recognition software, intercepted radio comms. It was bigger than I'd guessed. Clarissa laid out the deal, $50,000 paid in cash. All evidence disappears. If not, she'd send the faked files to the feds and tank my career. I told her I needed access to my hidden cash, would need to make contact with an associate. She agreed, but wanted proof backup drives, case files. I gave her a micro SD card from the decoy phone rigged with tracking software. As they loaded it into their system, they were handing me the keys to the castle. "Excellent work, Marshal Blackwood," Clarissa purred. "This validates everything you've told us." I played desperate, told them I'd lost 2 kilos of uncut cocaine during a bust worth $800,000 now missing. They swallowed it, quadrupled their demand to $200,000, and set up a public demonstration at the dock. She wanted to show the community how Lake Ranch handled federal corruption. Perfect. Because by then my real backup would be closing in. They paraded me out, hands tied, crowd swelling, phones everywhere, several live streams. Clarissa stepped out in her power suit, silver hair gleaming, owning the dock. She gave a speech about protecting the community from government criminals, told the crowd I'd stolen drugs, resisted arrest, endangered Lake Ranch. Derek and Travis worked the script, forced me down, zip ties ready. But I'd chosen this spot. Open views. Escape routes. Most important federal agents were watching, waiting for my signal. At Clarissa's cue, I let my jacket shift just right, my wallet tumbled out, badge glinting in the sun. Silence. You could feel the crowd's shock. I stood, voice steady. "Derek Holbrook, Travis Caldwell, under Title 18 U.S. Code, you are under arrest for impersonating federal officers." The crowd froze. Cameras rolled. "Clarissa Whitmore, you are the primary target of an ongoing federal investigation." Her stream kept rolling as I recited their rights, real Miranda word for word. She went white, dropped her phone, stammered denials. But then she did the thing guilty people always do. She kept talking. Told Derek to burn evidence, transfer funds, wipe records, all live, all documented. She bragged about extorting 15 federal agents, laundering money offshore accounts. The sound of rotors overhead broke the moment. A federal helicopter, black SUV's lights flashing. Tactical teams swept in, moving like sharks. The crowd melted away. Clarissa, Derek, Travis, all cuffed, all silent for once. The lead officer handed me arrest warrants for the whole operation. Clarissa's stream finally died, but not before the world saw everything. 3 months later, I came back to the same dock, fishing rod in hand, sun, golden water, calm. Lake Ranch had changed. New HOA board transparency, no more fake security. The old extorted fees, $30,000 put to playgrounds, boat ramps, community things that actually mattered. Margaret, the woman in the blue sundress, found me. Thanked me for what I'd done. Said, "You could have called for help right away, but you let them drag you in, documented it all." That took guts. I shrugged, reeling in my line. Sometimes the best way to catch a criminal is to let them think they're catching you. She laughed, told me her husband still couldn't believe he'd lived next to organized crime. But it happens, right? Fake authority feels real until someone pushes back. A retired cop named Bill joined me, asked if I thought this kind of corruption was common. I told him, yeah, more than people realize. But it's brittle. Apply enough truth and it cracks. That's justice. That's the job. Not just arresting people, but pulling down the whole rotten structure brick by brick. You ever wonder how many fake authorities are out there just waiting for someone to call their bluff? I do. But here's what I learned: real power, real justice. It doesn't scream or threaten or put on a show. It just stands up calmly, quietly, and lets the truth do the heavy lifting. So what would you have done? Walked away, called for backup, or let yourself get dragged inside to see just how deep the rot goes? Where's the line between playing it safe and making sure no one else gets hurt? Let me know. Maybe you've had your own run-in with power used the wrong way. Or maybe like me, you just want to fish in peace knowing that sometimes karma's got a badge too.
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video.